So we're here with Peet Johnson talking about prog rock and his great book on my favorite band, Focus, which I was very pleased to see. This is the first installment of Reading Is Funktamental where we're talking about a classic book. Normally I do just brand new books, but I wanted to go back, and you are the first book that I had for, as you can see, a long while that I wanted to talk to you about it because, you know, I've been a fan since myself. I've been a fan. I discovered them, I guess it was actually through Jan Akkerman's album Profile, which a friend of mine played on a quadraphonic stereo system.
Okay.
And so that was, you know, that was in whatever, 72, I guess probably 73. And then I kind of went back into them. I think Moving Waves was out, and that was about the time that that Focus 3 came out. And then when did you originally become interested in the band yourself?
Well, early 73, Hocus Pocus came out in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to play on the radio, they used to play the full length version from the album on the radio, rather than just the single version.
Right.
And of course, on the radio, it had all this, I mean, let's face it, rubbish.
Right.
That was going on at the time with glitter and pop, and we had little Jimmy Osmond, for instance. I mean, there was some absolute rubbish on the pop radio.
70s.
And then I heard this, and I heard this Hocus Pocus. Thought, hang on, this is wonderful. Not only are they obviously wonderful musicians,
right?
I mean, the drumming was fabulous, the flute, the guitaring, obviously,
right.
But they didn't take themselves seriously,
right?
And I thought that was terrific.
Right.
And I'd always loved instrumental music, going back to when I was about 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Telstar by the Tornadoes. And then I was listening to the Shadows and the theme to Doctor Who and just good instrumental music.
Yeah.
And then Herb Albert and, of course, the great Albatross by the original Fleetwood Mac.
Right, which Jan did.
So I was always into, and I was always into instrumental music. And I heard it, I thought, this is amazing.
Mm.
So I bought the single, and the flip side over here was Sylvia.
Wow.
And I heard this, thought, this is a song, but they're not singing it because Jan Akkerman's playing was so lyrical.
Right.
And I thought, I've got to get into these guys. So I bought the album Moving Waves, and I was completely educated. It was Baroque and roll, as they like to call it.
Right.
There was classical, there was jazz, there was R&B, you name it, it was in it.
Well, that's actually a good place to start, because I really wanted to start for people who don't know enough about this great band. Is really, we're going to focus on sort of the first iteration of the band, which was the band continues with some great players, and Thijs is still writing memorable stuff. The band that I was most into was the band when those two guys were united, Thijs van Leer and Jan Akkerman. So let's talk a little bit about where they came from, their childhood, and their musical influences and training.
Well, Thijs, they're both from Amsterdam, different parts of Amsterdam. Thijs was in a musical family that were quite well-to-do. He was a child prodigy. He learned classic piano, composition, structure, and went to a conservatorium later on. Whereas Jan was more of a working class family. He was self-taught. Actually, before he received lessons, he was playing guitar and bass.
Yeah. I don't know.
In fact,
accordion too, right?
An accordion as well.
Yeah, that was a big.
apparently that's where he got his finger work from.
Yeah.
According to his mother. Yes, and at the age of 8, he made his own bass from a table and some piano string. Resourceful kid. Before he received tutoring, and the tutors were being driven crazy because he just had his own style.
Right.
And they just really couldn't teach him anything.
Right.
He said, well, go ahead, you're teaching yourself.
Right.
And then he went to a music lyceum later on.
Right.
And then started forming his own bands.
And when I first met him, he took me on a little tour actually took me on a tour of Amsterdam, showing me a lot of sites. And then he took me up to Friesland, where he had lived in a car. When you have not ridden in a, if you have not ridden in a car with Jan Akkerman, you have not experienced true fear. He drives pretty quick. Yeah. He likes cars and motorcycles. But he mentioned again that the Thielemann brothers, the Indo rock, was a big influence on him. So he starts, as you were saying, Jan is a precocious kid. He has a band he has his first band, Johnny and the Cellar Rockers, and if you tell us a little about it, his apprenticeship up to Focus, his couple of 3 bands there.
Well, Johnny, he was Johnny. It was Anglicization of Jan, of course. And they started in the home cellar, so they called themselves the Cellar Rockers. They actually cut their first single when Jan was 12. It was Melody in F Rock, and I think the B-side was Exodus.
Yeah.
Theme from the movie. Probably the main thing about Johnny and his Cellar Rockers was that the first drummer was Pierre Van der Linden.
Right.
Who we'd work with, as we know, in Focus.
Right.
And other bands. So they were influenced. You can hear an early single, early 60s track called Una Ventura Mass, and it is very, very Shadows. And they were influenced very much by the Shadows. They did a lot of session work as well. And then, of course, 1965, he created The Hunters, where he was the lead singer, incredibly. And the following year, 66, yes, they had a hit called Russian Spy and I,
right,
which I'm sure you're aware of.
Right.
That's where you hear Jan really set the guitar on fire. He became famous with that. But so Johnny and the Cellar Rockers, they toured Belgium and Germany and Austria, so they did quite well. And then the Hunters had a hit single, and that was when Jan really became famous, particularly in the Netherlands. And then, of course, he went on to form Brainbox again with Pierre and Cause Looks. Sort of a bluesy band,
right? Kind of a, he said, like a kind of a free Bad Company type vibe to it a bit. I think that's what he said. And then at this same time, the Thijs had a very different musical education, and you know, he was involved. If you could tell us about the cabaret scene and
he joined a fellow by the name of Ramses Shaffi. And they had a like a theatre in the round set up there in Amsterdam. And as Tace told me, it's a sort of ooh and ah situation where he just played backing and a bit of flute. You really, if you listen to their work, you can't really tell it's Tace.
Right.
But it was good education for him. And then, of course, he when that finished, he joined when he was 19 in 67, and he spent about a year and a half with Shaffi, Chantal, I think we call it, and then that quit, and then he started his own trio, Thijs van Leer.
Right, and
I was going to say it's interesting with the Brainbox album. They have a track called Sea of Delight.
Right.
17 minutes long.
Right.
And you can hear Jan and Pierre really stretching themselves, giving themselves space. And you can hear what they're going towards.
Right, and it's very much like the sidelong piece on his profile album, the one that I first heard. Yeah, very like Middle Eastern-y. So then the band. So Jan,
as a guitar hound, you must have loved that.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I certainly did. I didn't really. I got that. I would get my albums. I think we discussed this. I would get my albums. You know, they didn't have them here in the States, and I used to go over to Europe every few years, and I'd stop in Amsterdam, and I would find the vinyl, and I'd put it in my backpack in the frame, and attempt to get them all back. So a lot of my Jan Akkerman vinyl came from it. Focus releases were here, but the Jan Akkerman vinyl was hard to find. So these two guys get together. And how does that happen? And who else is in the first? There's the first iteration, the iteration that was on the debut album.
Well, it was based on the trio Thijs van Leer, which was Thijs van Leer, of course. The bass player was Martin Dresden, who also did a bit of vocals with Thijs, and Hans Cleuver, drummer. They all met in a radio station once, and that started in 1969 after Thijs had left Shafi. And Jan Akkerman was still with Brainbox, but he was having a bit of trouble with the management there. They hated the fact that he was a wonderful guitarist who stood there with cement feet. They wanted someone jumping around.
Oh,
yeah. It was all about the showmanship, and he wouldn't do that, of course. And he decided to jam with Thijs and Hans and Martin. Somebody tipped him off. We don't know who tipped off the Brainbox management, but they got a tip off. Brainbox management said, "Okay, this is our excuse to get rid of you. You want to join this bunch? Go for it."
Right.
Just prior, this was in late around August, September 1969. So Thijs van Leer said, "Great, we'll have you. We wanted a guitarist." So he joined them up. They played for the music here. They were a pit band. The bassist.
Right, they were. Yeah, people don't know this. They were the pit band for the Amsterdam version of Hair. Have you ever heard that album? Have you ever heard that album?
Yes, I have.
Is it anything? No.
It's very much of its time.
Right. Okay. No, I never heard. That's one of the ones I haven't been able to track down. So they did that, and then they ended up getting a record deal.
Yes, they did. The album was basically set up before Jan Akkerman had
oh, okay. I never knew that.
Joined, but once he joined and they were a quartet, then they got the record deal, and they recorded the album, and it was called Focus Plays Focus. And it flopped big time. There were songs that were a bit ordinary. You can hear the musicianship there, but there are a couple of instrumental tracks. The first Focus tune and Anonymous, which was wonderful, which is the only thing that Jan Akkerman really was involved in with the album. He played guitar, but he co-wrote Anonymous.
Right.
And you could hear, hang on, there's something here. They've got something here. If they just kept their mouth closed, they could do pretty well. And then Jan wrote House of the King,
right,
which is their first single and first hit.
And that was a whole story about a concert in Spain or something like that, or was something.
Yes, they had they were in a competition in Spain, and it was rigged.
Right.
And they weren't too happy about it. I think one of the dressing rooms was worse for wear afterwards. Anyway, Jan just felt like writing something He was in one of those moods that he gets
Mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote House of the King, and it took him a few minutes. And then they recorded it, and that was a hit. And then the first album was repackaged as In and Out of Focus,
Right.
including House of the King.
Oh, okay. So I didn't
The
realize it
strange
wasn't
thing about the album is in the US, the track Sugar Island was taken off
right.
that album because it was about Cuba.
Right. Right.
And it's a bit politically sensitive at the time.
And
So they took it off the album.
sort of a pro Cuba song. Everybody was happy and dancing around in the sugar and the wine and the women
Yes,
and the sun. So
that's right.
so then well, also House of the King, one should note that for American listeners, a lot of that was kind of, although it was written by Jan, it was flute driven in terms of the melody. And a lot of
That's
people
right.
kind
Yeah.
of, that's where they confuse them with Jethro Tull. That's where sometimes the comparison, because they were essentially the two bands with flautists, I guess, at that time, aside from Blues Project, which didn't really have that much, but that was a thing. So then what happens? They have this unsuccessful album, and then they decide to break up. And how did they reconfigure?
Well, they didn't decide to break up. Jan Akkerman left
Hmm.
because he wanted to work with Pierre Van der Linden again.
Right.
And you wrote I forget exactly how you put it, but in Dave Randall's book on Jan Akkerman, he pointed out how important Pierre Van der Linden was
Hmm.
to Jan Akkerman's playing.
Yeah.
And you saw that in the Johnny and Cellar Rockers, and you saw it in Brainbox.
Right.
So Jan left, and he started jamming with Pierre and Cyril Havermanns.
Hmm.
And he got to Taste and say, "You want to join up? This will be my band." Taste wasn't too happy about it, but he acquiesced. After a while, realizing how important their partnership was, their musical partnership,
Right.
not their personal partnership, because they were starting to argue already.
Hmm.
And that's how the second incarnation of Focus started.
Which was which leads to Moving Waves, which is the breakthrough.
Yes, produced by Mont Vernon.
Late great, just passed away.
Yes, only recently.
Yeah.
Sadly passed away. It was an amazing album. It really was. There was I don't know if to tell you that, but it woke a lot of people up to music. They heard Hocus Pocus, and I thought, well, there's an oddity act, and there's a bit of rock and roll and all that type of thing. They bought it, and suddenly they found out that there was classical,
Right.
and there was jazz, and there was baroque,
Right.
and of course, as we know, Eruption is that 16-piece opus,
Right. And
which is quite.
Jan played more than guitar. He played a lot of the bass on that album, purportedly, correct?
Most of the bass, yes.
Yeah, most of the bass, and pieced together a lot of the stuff. Although, at that time, Thijs, I guess, had the authorship of of a lot of this stuff. And it's very interesting to go to your book. Is probably the one that really. This was a band that is Thijs more so than Jan rated the classics cleverly. A lot of the themes
Oh,
to
yes.
some of these things came from the music that Bach and where's the
Luke,
one?
Bartok, Bela
Bartok, yes,
Bartok.
which got cut off the album, right? The album version of
Yes,
Eruption.
his
Yeah.
family didn't want them using it. What had happened is that Emerson, Lake and Palmer, on their first album, wrote, well, they didn't write it, they played A Barbarian, which was
Right.
really Bartok.
Right.
And they didn't give him any credit. And
Right.
Bartok's family weren't happy about it. And they said, well, this isn't going to happen again.
Hmm.
So they didn't give him permission, although they used to play Bartok live.
Right. Yeah, I've heard it. The amazing one thing we should also promote aside from your fantastic book is that 50th box is fantastic. It has a lot of these live There's a 41-minute version of Eruption from, I believe, the Isle of Texel. There's a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, there's a 46 minute version of Eruption played in The Hague.
Oh, okay.
Or no, Rotterdam. Excuse me, in Rotterdam.
Yeah.
But the older Texel, both I've got both the bootlegs.
Yeah.
Of that, and the playing is quite unbelievable. That's what Mike Vernon saw.
Right.
He had heard the first album and wasn't too impressed, and then he saw them live and said, "Well, I've got to produce these fellas."
And that purportedly is how they made their U.S. breakthrough. Is that what was it? Seymour Stein? Did he go see them?
Yes.
How did they get?
Seymour Stein had seen them and told Mike Vernon about it. They were in partnership on the Blue Horizon label.
Right.
So word got through to England, to Vernon, and that's how that started. Yes, that's right.
And that leads to them becoming this sort of touring juggernaut, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, when I first met Jan through Randall I guess I went to the show in, I don't know, late 90s, and it was in Liverpool. He did an electric show. Before that I had spoken to him and interviewed him for a piece, and he just said to me, he said, "I still have jet lag." He stopped touring like this in 1976, and this was like 22 years later, and he was still complaining about jet lag. But they were hard.
He hated flying.
Oh, he hated flying too.
Yes, and also there was a period of about 2 years, a 2-year period where Focus played 600 odd gigs. It was a ridiculous amount.
Right.
So he didn't like touring, and as he used to, what did he say? Holiday in, holiday out.
Right.
About touring, he got pretty fed up with it.
Well, at least he, as some people know, he picked up the lute, and he said that he used those long flights to actually learn to play the lute or practice. So that begins their ascendancy, and then that leads into their next album, which is Focus 3. So how did that and also let's talk about how they became such a big band in Britain and this power outage deal when they went.
Yes, that was clever. Well, it was early, the start of the year in 1972, and they were booked to play Britain, and there was a minor strike. There was a lot of strikes in England at the time, so there was an energy crisis, and the government had proclaimed a state of emergency. People only working 3 days a week and all that type of thing. It was a bit of a mess. So the chances of going to see a band play live with all the electricity that they use up was quite rare. And the Focus manager, Yves de Jong, was wily enough to take a generator with them. So a lot of people who might not have seen them said, "Well, there's a band playing, they've got their own generator. If you want to hear music, let's go watch them." And whether they liked it or not, they went and saw Focus, and then they realized how good they were.
Right. And some of those people were people like Peter Banks from Yes, who Jan would do an album with him, and pretty much was like a duo album, even though it was under Peter Banks's name. So, and that would lead to, their continued popularity in Britain, more so than anywhere, I guess. And that was the year that Jan was named best guitarist in the world in the Melody Maker poll around that time, or.
That's right, Melody Maker, yeah. World's greatest guitarist, 1973. And yes, he just shrugged his shoulders about it because he just wanted to be a great, unique guitarist, which he was. It was a reader's poll, so it was a popularity contest. They'd played there were 2 shows on TV in 1972, late 72. For music. One was Top of the Pops, where all the poppy for the younger set. And then later on in the evening, there was the Old Grey Whistle Test. And they played in the Old Grey Whistle Test because they were known, because they had their generator so they could play, etc., etc. So they got their name. And then later on, they played the Old Grey Whistle Test. And they were a huge hit, a massive hit. And people got to actually see them throughout the United Kingdom.
And this you could still catch easily on YouTube today, you know, if you were astounding performances of and that was really the classic. So how did the Focus 3 album come about, and were they working well together, or what was the difference between that album and maybe the prior album in their approach to it? And
well, that was recorded in only 4 days.
Yeah, wow.
Which is amazing. Double album in 4 days.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Hey, I have to talk to you. I thought I knew everything. Good.
Yes. Mike Vernon wanted to capture the live sound because there were 2 focuses. There was one that you heard on record, and there was one that you saw live.
Right.
And the amazing thing about the band is you watched them 2 days, like back to back, and they were different concerts.
Right.
I found that out when I saw them in '74. It's just, so he wanted to catch that live feel. So they just said, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll just play for 4 days and see what comes out of it. And the whole idea was to capture that live energy and feel.
And that's certainly prevalent on the remake of Anonymous, which is a side and a half, I guess, or 2 sides, or and then
a side and a half,
a side and a half, and then also the answers, questions, answers, and Focus 3, which is
answers, questions, answers is the epitome of Focus at the time, I believe.
Right.
It was beautifully written by Bert Reiter, who was their new bass player, and Jan Akkerman. They didn't write it together; they just put it together while they're in the studio. It's an amazing talent that these people have. They have individual skills, but in the combination, a wonderful sound.
Right.
And Pierre's drumming on that. I mean, we all know about the guitar and the flute solo, but Pierre's drumming is immaculate.
Right. And then then that was the album that also contained Sylvia.
Yes. It
which is
that was originally a song.
Right. I was going to ask you to talk about that. That goes back to the Ramsey Shaffy days.
Yes. Thijs wrote it for one of the singers, and the lyrics, which have been lost in time by Linda Van Dyke, have been lost. And Thijs brought it up and said, look, I wrote this. Jan's lyrical guitar could do the vocals, and they played it. And of course, it's one of the great singles.
Right.
And of course, they did some amazing work. They used a canon for Carnival Fugue. Fugue, excuse me, and they quoted Virgil, a Roman poet, while jazzing it up on Round Goes the Gossip. It was quite. It's music you didn't have in the background. You listened to.
Right. Wasn't the New York Dolls? What I'm saying, but
not at all.
No, and then that's really when they seemed to break here big, and they did a lot of touring, and then they followed this up with Hamburger Concerto, which had more of an influence from all the bands they were touring with, right? Joe Walsh and
Joe Walsh and was it Barnstorm?
Barnstorm, yeah.
That was an influence on them for sure. They had a heavier sound. In fact, that's one of the many reasons that Pierre Van der Linden left the band.
Right. Let's talk about that. Yeah. We'll talk about why that was.
Well, firstly, the touring, he was getting sick of it, like all of them were. He was pretty fed up with all the bickering between Jan and Thijs. You have these two, what do you call it?
Like
artistic
rams.
temperaments.
Yeah.
And egos. Egos is great. Egos is wonderful. You don't get to be big. You don't get to be the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of Australia without an ego. Okay. Right. But they were starting to clash. He was getting sick of that. The set list was the same.
Right.
Which he was getting fed up with because he's jazz. He's not a rock drummer.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to talk about that. He is. You could even hear that on things like Focus 2, on so much of the music is. And then he went on to jazz after that, and then he went on to a band Trace, which was kind of like a Dutch ELP with Ricky van der Linden.
Yeah.
But so Hamburger Concerto, when I had spoken to Jan, he mentioned that he wrote it at the Hyatt on 6th Avenue, the main riff, while he was having a piece of cheesecake.
Yeah.
And a hamburger.
I think he was watching Laurel and Hardy at the same time.
There you go. You know even more than I do. So that's a very some people. I mean, I've grown more to like that album more as time has gone on. You know, I would say I lean more towards Focus, towards Moving Waves and 3, but I do, you know, love a lot of that. And then they followed that one with was that when the live album came out, Live at the Rainbow? After that,
no, Love of the Rainbow was the year prior.
Oh, was
they'd gone in? Yeah, that was 73. Hamburger Concerto was 74.
Oh, okay.
In 73, they'd been touring, and they went into the studio for a couple of weeks in I think it was May, and there was immense bickering and depression. They were tired. They were all jet lagged.
Right.
If you could believe that. Touring kills inspiration, as they say. And they only recorded, I think, about 6 tracks, which came in there. We'll talk later, I guess, about Ship of Memories. But they recorded a few tracks. Jan wouldn't record with the rest of the band.
Mm-hmm.
He used to go driving because where they were recording is a beautiful part of England around the Cotswolds area.
Right.
I don't know if you've been around there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he wanted to drive around there. And there was a bit of sheet music for lute and all that type of thing around the Cotswolds area. So he was more interested in that. And Pierre was getting extremely depressed at the time. So no album came out in 73 because they booked a tour again. Mm-hmm. And anyway, they said, well, we've got to have an album. They said, well, how about the Rainbow Show that was put on the BBC? Mm-hmm. They said, okay, we'll put that up. It wasn't maybe the answers, questions, the answers is sensational.
Amazing. That's probably one of my favorite guitar solos. Unbelievable.
Yes, it is. And well, the flute solo and
everything,
Pierre's drumming is so amazing.
So, were you saying that was initially intended as a television thing, and then it became an album, or?
Yeah, it was on television, and it was shown on the BBC in concert. I think it was called.
Right, and that's again available on YouTube.
Yeah, and it was very popular, and they said, well, okay, we stuffed up trying to make up an album. We just released a live one, so we've got an album for 73.
Right.
Not the best. Their version of Eruption was pretty anemic, but
Sylvia's a little glitchy.
Yeah.
But still, it's worth it for side one, in my opinion.
Yes.
You know.
Oh, they started the trend Live at the Rainbow.
Yeah, they did start the trend. And then Hamburger Concerto, you say Pierre departed and then he was replaced by
Colin Allen.
Right. Nice guy. He's around on Facebook.
Real nice guy. Lives in Stockholm these days. Recently turned about 89, I think.
Wow.
He's getting on now.
Oh.
Real nice guy. And I've been in contact with him for years. Yes, he was found by, Pierre didn't even tell the guys that he was leaving. He just didn't turn up to rehearsals at the Castile.
Right.
where they used to rehearse.
Which is on the album, on your album, if you get the fold out album. I have in America, we didn't have the fold
Beautiful
out.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful spot. Yeah, it's a great design, that album design, isn't it? Yeah, Graham Hughes, I think, did the photography. What was I talking about? I was rambling on about something.
Oh,
I was talking about Colin Allen joining.
Right.
And they had short notice. They said, well, where are we going to get a drummer? And Mike Vernon said, well, I know a guy I worked with John Mayall. There's a famous album, live, the Canyon, Laurel Canyon.
Blues of Laurel Canyon, I think. Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, well, he was on that. And they
He's
said,
in
okay.
Stone the Crows too, right?
Yes, he was Stone the Crows. Yeah, and they had played in Switzerland on the same bill as Focus, so they knew him, and he knew them. And he worked as an emollient for the band because he was the type of person that could calm things down when people were starting to get angry because of his personality. So he was more of a straightforward drummer, wonderful drummer, but less intricate than Pierre. And that was what they were looking for with, as we said before, when you brought up Joe Walsh and Barnstorm. So they were going to move in that direction. So he was good for them at the time.
Right. So
you can there's some wonderful work, particularly on Birth.
Yeah, definitely. Very pagan beats. So then they go on to, there's a stylistic change. So the next one is Mother Focus, correct? Am I right and correct?
Don't say that fast.
Don't say it fast. Yeah, actually I can. I have to beep them on here. But that's kind of a real departure. It's got some great stuff on it, but it's got different kind of influences, and Bert ended up writing a lot of the material. So if you want to talk about that and what was going on, and then Colin Allen, I guess, was out by that time, right? Or
yes, Colin Allen recorded one track on it, and Jan kicked him out.
Okay.
He's using a click track, and there was a bit of an argument about it. So they brought in the American David Kemper, who was probably played on about 200 albums as a session musician. Also a nice fellow. And they brought him in because the album was, firstly, it was recorded in Los Angeles, whereas they normally recorded in England. They didn't have Mike Vernon as their producer. Decided to basically produce it themselves. And they went towards an MOR, jazz fusion type of style, which isn't really Focus. Jan Akkerman was very unhappy about it.
Right.
Again, he recorded away from the rest of the band.
Right.
They do the stuff during the day. Jan Akkerman come at night. He's even the tunes he put in there were kind of lackluster. And the thing is, Thijs and Jan were saving their really good compositions for their own work.
Yeah, so
that's, as you brought up, the fact that Bert Reiter did a lot of writing.
Right.
There was no choice anyway.
Right. So let's talk about how the two broke up, and then go into their solo. They had concurrent solo. I want to say almost competitive, right? Solo careers at that time.
Oh, very.
Yeah. So when did the solo career start? I mean, obviously Jan did a way back album called Talent for Sale, which was pre-Focus, I would think, was it?
Yes, it was 1968. It was he was putting himself in the shop window, which is why it's called Talent for Sale.
Right, because he did a lot of sessions.
It was in between the Hunters and the Brainbox.
Right. And then when did he do Profile?
Profile was done over a couple of years, but mainly 1969, before he was with Focus.
Oh, wow.
And then a few tracks it was a bit of a mess. He didn't want it released.
Oh, I love that album. I love the mess.
Well, if you're a guitarist like you are, Sal,
yeah,
you of course you're going to love it. Everything's in it.
Well, it's got classical, it's got lute, it's got this,
lute.
amazing, the improvisation we were talking about.
Yes.
So that's Jan's pre-focus, and then they both kind of come in. Thijs has introspection, and Jan
Well,
has
tasted introspection 1972,
right, and
which
it's
satisfied his classical inclination.
yeah. I mean, it was huge in Holland, right? It's like the
Oh, it was
best.
the biggest single album in their history.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, if you could describe what it was, so people who haven't heard it.
Easy listening classical, a little slightly overproduced, I suppose. But Roger van Usselo was the conductor, and it was a very nice album, but it was something you could have in the background.
Right. And then Jan, go ahead.
Then Jan, of course, did Tabernacle.
Right. I think,
classic.
yeah. So he gets signed, Jan gets signed by Atlantic, by Adam,
yes.
Ahmet Erdogan. And I guess I guess he thought he was getting Blow by Blow, part 2. And Jan gives him an album that's lute music. And he did do one thing. I did actually speak to Carmine a piece.
Yes, your drummer, yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to Carmine, actually. It was totally different. I did a story which ended up in Rolling Stone. It was about rock stars who complemented their music career with real estate. He's really into real estate, Carmine.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of musicians, especially during COVID, became realtors to supplement their income because nobody's getting anything from records. But that album was a great album, a very fine album.
Oh,
it wasn't
unbelievable.
It wasn't I guess it wasn't what they were looking for, really. Commercially.
No. Right. No, not commercially, no. In fact, the only single that came out of it was a redo of House of the King.
Right.
But, of course, it starts off with Britannia, which is, if you don't like it, there's something wrong with you, I think. Right. And, of course, Lammy was a little bit of a mini opus itself.
Right.
And, of course, you played the electric sitar, which isn't a sitar, but it was electric. But it was he used the focus, the drum solos, the sort of a monk. What would you call it?
The chanting and the organ. Chants, very moody. But still an incredible showcase for the guitar skills and his compositional skills.
Oh yes. He didn't sleep while he made that.
Right.
He didn't. He hardly ate.
Yeah.
And he'd been touring for a long time, so it was a very stressful time. And he brought in George Flynn,
from
who was I think he was the professor of music at Columbia.
Right.
In New York.
Yeah, again, Baroque rock.
Yes.
Even more Baroque than rock in many cases. So they're doing these solo albums. Jan would do a couple more. He would do 3 total for I think under that Atlantic contract, or 4.
Yes, he did the Jan Akkerman, the self-titled album, and also Eli,
which is amazing. Which is amazing album. The Jan Akkerman with the guitar and the arm.
Oh, it's a heck of a cover. But it's a wonderful album. But that's I told you before, during Mother Focus album, they were keeping their own tracks, and he kept crackers for that particular album.
Right. And then so what transpires? How do they call it a day?
Well, they called it a day. Firstly, I saw them in 1975 in Sydney.
Right.
And there were 2 bands playing. There was Thijs and Bert, and there was Pierre and Jan. And Jan Akkerman was absolutely obsessed with the talk box. And it started to annoy a lot of the members of the audience.
Because
I want to hear. See, Focus fans weren't the teenagers jumping
Right.
up and down,
Right.
putting their head and listening to it. They were the people in their 20s and 30s used to watch it. And even they got a bit annoyed that Jan was practicing, and they were doing a lot of improvisations that didn't quite work. So yeah, the band was splitting up. In fact, during that, in 1975, they had a wonderful Australian band called Splash and Hardy with their support band. And two of the members of Splash and Hardy had to pull Thijs and Jan apart.
Wow.
Physically. It wasn't just arguing, they were trying to kill each other.
No.
So they were in a lot of trouble. Yeah. And of course the last they did one particular gig where they were just playing different music. Each person was doing what they wanted to. No. It was a mess. The crowd just walked out.
Wow.
So there were a lot of problems there. Pierre came in for a while, and he left again after an argument. And then what happened was they were going to tour with the Mother Focus album to England. They already booked the tour. And they were practicing, rehearsing, and Jan Akkerman wasn't there because he had a terrible dose of the flu. And Thijs rang him up, said, "Look, you've got to come in. You know, we're doing this." And Jan was, "Oh, it's rubbish music." But anyway, and I'm in bed, and anyway, crawled out of bed, sort of a pale green colour, tissues up his nose. I mean, it was, the picture he gave wasn't pretty. So he wasn't in the best of moods anyway. And then they started playing. Big argument came up, and Thijs just turned to him and said, "You're gone. Get out." Remembering that it was Jan that started the second incarnation of Focus, but Thijs kicked him out.
He was on to other things. So then they did the tour. They got a wonderful guitarist named Philip Catherine to fill in, and he was with them for a while. And
he was a good guitarist, but he was
great
jazz.
Guitar. Yeah, he was a jazz guy.
He was a wonderful jazz guitarist.
Right. And they kind of went in that almost a little bit in that, doing Sneezing Bull, some of his compositions, they went into that sort of Return to Forever area. And they would, ultimately that band would break up. They had a brief, we don't have too much time, but they did have a brief reunion on a television show where they performed well. In Holland many years later. They did an album together.
Yes, they did. Actually, they did an album together in 85 called Focus, which has some wonderful tracks on King Kong, Ole Judy,
Russian Roulette.
There's some good stuff on there.
Yeah.
There was Le Tango's a bit too heavy. Russian Roulette was nice. So there's some nice stuff on there. But again, they were arguing a lot. Musically, they were brilliant together.
Yeah.
But when they clashed,
okay, so we were talking about the dissolution. He got fired, and then they all went off. They all went on their happy ways. They both had very nice careers. I've seen Jan a few times since then. I saw him recently, a couple of years ago in Oslo. It just so happened I was up there, and I saw Jan Akkerman's going to be in Oslo, so we rushed down there. But so so tell me about how the book came about, and how long it took you to do, and who you talked to, that whole kind of thing, quickly.
Okay, well, the book came about because I read Dave Randall's book on Jan Akkerman. And it was terrific. I mean, to have a book on Jan Akkerman.
Right.
But there's only a certain part was about Focus because it was about his career.
Right.
And I thought Focus deserves something. Right. They really deserve. Chronologically written. Every track has to go through every track, what it's about, and anything that's interesting with it. And a full biography of the band itself. So yes, I thought, well, I've never written anything longer than a shopping list. I'm not a journalist.
Wow. You're very
I'm not
good.
a writer. I'm just a fan. So I wanted to write a book, not to try and pretend I was a writer, but because I wanted fans to, what I found interesting, I thought others would find interesting.
Well, that's exactly what you did. I mean, there's this hardcore group, and I think it's an expanding group because Focus continues to, that footage of them on doing that super amphetamine version of Hocus Pocus with Gladys Knight on that American show goes all over the place.
Midnight Special.
Midnight Special. That's
Yeah.
and their the remix of Hocus Pocus was the World Cup. So I think they continue to do that. And now, if you were going to talk to the uninitiated, my last question is: what maybe 3 or 4 things would you say people should hear first with Focus?
What was that? Sorry.
What 3 or 4 songs to the uninitiated would you say people should hear first about to truly represent Focus?
Okay. Janice, which is beautiful. Answers questions, questions, answers. And probably Birth. It's all very subjective. All best of albums is subjective.
Yes.
But that's what I got the most out of. And if you want to know about Focus, probably the questions, answers, questions.
Yeah, me too. Now, I love Red Sky at Night. The solo on that is fabulous. That we didn't really talk too much about that album. But can people still get this from you or
through Amazon.
Oh, okay. So it's still available through Amazon. Is it available as a digital version too yet, or
no?
Okay, this is good. You'll get a nice, well worked out hardcover here. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Pete. I almost called you Dave. You know why? But he's the other guy who wrote a book a while ago. All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and we will spread the word of Focus. And again, thanks a lot, and happy to have the same addiction as you.
It's been a pleasure, Sal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
Good host.
Bye.
Thanks, mate.